Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back into the room. We have one more piece on the agenda, which is sharing out some of the conclusions from our breakout discussions. So if you wouldn't mind coming in, having a seat, and then we'll share out the things that we heard in our different breakouts. Thank you. So I know place-based development is in the room. If you were in Goal 2, the business discussion, can you raise your hand so I know someone from that group is represented? Was anyone in the Goal 2, the business retention? Okay, we have a couple of folks. Do we have anyone here who was in the entrepreneurship and innovation discussion? Great, so I see a couple of you. I'd ask for the facilitators to come up so that we can share our summaries from the group discussions really quickly. I will take facilitators' kind of charge here and share out what we heard in place-based development first. So we really focused on questions of what kind of development would folks like to see, what would that look like, and where could it be? We heard a lot of things. One, we heard folks really wanting kind of experiential development that is easy to access, so making sure that folks are able to engage with the space, that it's not difficult to get to logistically, that it reflects the history and character of Alexandria, and also looking at ways that we can rethink existing developments, looking at adaptive reuse, how can we learn from mistakes, and then how can we also capitalize on opportunities? Maybe it's bringing a new museum into an area. Maybe it's bringing a performing arts facility to an area of Alexandria, really looking at how it is that we can capitalize on resources that maybe are being less invested in across the river. We also heard a lot about kind of looking at innovative uses that are part of your community infrastructure. So looking at how can we include elements of childcare into buildings, making sure that the workforce is able to access work because their children have somewhere to go during the day. We also heard a little bit about working with different kinds of organizations and development, not necessarily only focusing on the partners that we've had before. There was also an emphasis on open space network, the value not only of active spaces in development through real estate, but also in having open spaces, parks, trails, places where people can go and be and maybe not have to purchase anything while they're there. Some of the last pieces here, heard a lot about Alexandria is having great things in certain pockets, but those pockets not always being connected. I specifically think of someone who is speaking about Del Rey, talking about the walkability, the pocket parks, and that exists in a bubble here. You've got Old Town, a bubble here, but how can we better connect some of those bubbles of experience together? I'll ask Tracy, because I don't know if our note taker is here, if I missed anything. Is there anything you'd want to add to that conversation?
No, I think you covered it. I think we got it.
And I did plug this in the last group, and I'll tell you guys, this is not your last opportunity to participate. We will have a survey after the summit where you can share additional ideas. I know the breakouts were really quick. We were only kind of able to scratch the surface in hours, and I tend to think yours may have been the same. With that, I will hand it off to goal number 2. Mishka, I think you'll be providing feedback on that one.
Oh, no. Okay, so you all have to bear with me because I am just reading this now for the first time. Our note taker was great, very detailed notes here, so I'll do my best to just capture some of the main thoughts here. So we talked a bit about target industries and different business types and what is necessary in the city. And we heard a lot from the group needing a clear, updated list of target industries, as well as criteria for selecting target industries to include consideration of what Alexandria does very well, what the community's strengths and competitive advantages are, what alignment looks like with the local talent pool and what the emerging needs are, as well as opportunities. So being able to explore opportunities in technology, specifically cyber, digital, health, tech, energy, professional services, and with a focus on mid-sized firms. Some of the qualities sought in new businesses, so for those recruitment efforts, looking for businesses that are complementary to what is already existing in Alexandria and that fits within its infrastructure. Workforce training through trade programs and community college initiatives. Being able to address local consumer gaps and attracting businesses that residents can clearly leave the area to access. Let's see here. I don't want to keep going through all of these, but retention was another thing that came up quite a bit as extremely important. So making sure that it's understood the importance of existing businesses and being able to support the existing business community, creating some platform or method of communication with businesses to understand what their needs are, and how to best support them in their growth. And let's see what else. I would say those were the main points. Is anyone else from Group 2 in the room that would like to share some of the thoughts or ideas that we discussed? Okay, yep. All right.
So much. Now we're going to ask John.
Yes.
Take the stage.
All right, I'll take the mic. So my note taker isn't here, is she? So I had a great note taker. So this was innovation entrepreneurship, and it was very difficult. And it's difficult for this reason, that from an economic development point of view and from the point of view of the city of Alexandria, you have to make distinctions between those businesses that serve the local community and those that are really high-growth, tech-oriented. And they have very different needs, and they have to be approached differently, and the services and support they need are going to be different. And I have to say, we didn't bridge that gap because they do not speak the same language. And so let me give you some examples. So minority businesses, crucially important to a community. The things that they need from the city include things like access to capital, basic support services like financial literacy. They need support for marketing and growth, and they need technical assistance. But if I'm talking about high-growth entrepreneurial firms, I'm talking about something completely different. Access to capital looks and feels different because it's usually driven by some proprietary or IP, intellectual property support. So that's a whole different category of people. It's not necessary for that group of startups to care, I know this sounds funny, to care a lot about Alexandria, because they're not serving Alexandria primarily. So here are the common threads between the two groups as it will affect what the city can do in 3 categories. And the first of those categories is access to capital, with that distinction, right? With that distinction. The second is talent and access to talent. And again, very different if I'm looking for good software engineers versus someone that I know will show up and be a good customer-oriented person in a nail salon on Monday morning. But again, the category of talent fits two different groups, but is a useful category for both. And then the third is place-oriented. What sort of space they would occupy, what kind of growth needs they have for that space, the utilities, supporting them, and so forth. So I think where we're going to land in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation for the city of Alexandria is going to cluster around those three categories. How does the city support access to capital? Again, with in two different buckets. It's going to address how you support talent growth, both finding and retaining them. And then third, what are their space and place needs? And so that's where our recommendations are ultimately going to land. And it was a robust conversation. But I have to say, in all honesty to you, those are parallel conversations. The needs of small businesses that serve a local market do not resemble the needs of a company that's high growth, tech oriented, and is innovation driven. So our recommendations around the city are going to have to make that distinction. So it was a really fun and robust discussion. And honestly, the time went by so quickly, it was like we felt like we hadn't even gotten started. And so I think that there's room for this and it has to continue. But I think it has to continue on two different tracks, and we'll need to talk further about that. So thank you all.
Thanks, John. Well, not yet. Hold on, John. Not yet. Not yet. I guess it's not there. So here's what we'll do. I want to thank thank you. Okay. I'm going to put that down. So I want to thank everyone here. We couldn't have gotten to this point without you. That is so important. So give yourself a pat on the back, a hand, whatever it is, because this is taking us and informing us in ways that we did not have this information before we walked in this room. So thank you for that. Where do we go from here? I want you to see this. We will, as one of our deliverables, produce an economic summit report. We'll give the highlights of this event, and we'll have more community input, a full summary. We have a post-summit survey. We're going to encourage all of you to participate in that. So we're continuing to gather information. The strategic framework, it is going to be our goal to refine that based on information that we've received today. And then from that point, we'll draft and develop an implementation action plan, because you can't do anything without that. That's my favorite part, right? And again, for updates, visit the Summit webpage. We're going to have our presentations there. You'll have full access to that. So please go there and get all the information you need if you want to recap again. But thank you, the partnership team, the city staff, the facilitators, the note takers. Ben, thank you. Thank you all so much. Now, city manager.
Hello. All right, so thank you very, very much. I know I'm standing between dinner, birthdays, celebrations, rest, whatever. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. It's one of the things that makes Alexandria special, the participation that we saw here today. You know, there's a lot of good conversations, a lot of spirited debate, and it's not over. One of the beauties of this effort is we're really at somewhat what I'd call, maybe not the beginning, but we're not at the end. So there's still a lot to be done, and I would ask that you stay involved. I know if you've registered during this event, we'll be able to make sure that you're connected. Also, these types of large-scale events don't get done without great people helping, and I want to recognize Stephanie Landrum, Marion Marquez, the whole AEDP team. I want to recognize some of our city staff, in particular, Julian Gonzalez, Catherine Caraway, Dana Weddles, and the other staff, and our Office of Communication team. That all really is very helpful. I also want to recognize our city council. I don't know if you noticed, our city council was here for 4 hours. 4 hours, and I can tell you that's amazing. And 4 hours of participation. It's one thing to show up, it's another thing to be heavily engaged, heavily involved. And you can tell how important economic development is to the city is by you participating today, the council participating, you see multiple staff members here. We all know that our future is relying on how well we do this project. And it's not just a project, it's really an initiative that's going to carry us forward, not just tomorrow, not just over the next 3-4 years, but in the next decade. Remember when Stephanie started and said the original economic development strategy was done in the early 2000s, right? That's just amazing. So now I think we're designing something for the next decade or two. Now I would say economic development is a hard combat sport from my perspective, so we have to be nimble too. And I think some of the conversations we have today, and we talked about some initiatives, those may change over time, and we have to recognize flexibility, adaptability. The other thing that I would just say in closing on economic development, it's not without risk. Economic development does have risk, but with a good calculation, good analysis, good understanding, thoughtful conversations, thoughtful discussions like we had today and will continue, as well as your advocacy when there's something that you really do support, because it does take a lot of action. And it's going to take investment, city investment, to make some of these things a reality. And we're going to need all of your help and supportive of that. With that, I want to say again, thank you so much. It's really been an honor to listen today, and I learned a tremendous amount. I continue to do that. I know our staff did. I want to say again, thank you to all, and I hope you have safe travels if you're traveling. If not, I hope that you get to where your loved ones are and have a great night. So thank you again.